All right, everyone, we're live. We're here today. Clint Stoker, the man who has bootstrapped himself into indie comic success. Clint, how's it going?
Hey, good. It's been a little while since we've streamed last. It's at
Yeah,
least a year. It's been a long while, it seems
I
like.
think so. Yeah. Well, I think it's been a busy year for everyone.
Yeah, I mean it's on different levels too. I don't know how it is for you, but for me it's like the COVID stuff and how that has affected work for me and like on that level, and then also YouTube comic book stuff, and so it almost feels like 2 years kind of rolled into one. They're separate memories. I have it all compartmentalized, so I'll probably forget that they all happened in the same year.
Yeah,
But
I know what you mean. My day job's in the medical industry,
oh
and
yeah,
then and I started a new job near the end of 2019, which was just in time for this. So it's like, okay, I can make more videos, or I can actually work on my projects that I want to publish.
yeah.
And neither of them were balanced very well.
It's tough, man.
Yeah.
Working full time, and then YouTube in and of itself was a full time thing. And for me, it's like just like with you, like the decision to, hey, I need to focus a bit on comics.
Mm-hmm.
And so the creative aspect of comics, just making sure I have all this down, and I can't be. It's just so different from YouTube, even though it's comics related. It really is a different, mental skills that you're using.
Yes.
So it's hard to do it all at the same time.
So, how do you manage that plus the day job? And I think you have more than one day job. Plus, you've got a family.
Yeah. So the more than one day job thing first. I have a window I had a window cleaning business. I
Mm-hmm.
closed it.
Oh,
So that has been really nice, and it has freed up a bunch of time. The goal with that was just I wanted to get my student loans all paid off.
sure.
And so it was like I'll do two jobs. It was such a good thing, and I learned a lot about business. I ran it for 4 years, but that was enough to get it done and just get my family in a better place financially. So then this past year, I thought, if something's got to go. So it's either going to be my full-time job or it's going to be Windows. Comics is not going anywhere. So it's got to be one of those two. So with FATL, it was wildly successful, but it's still not enough to like reliably say I'm going to quit my full-time job. You know what I mean? Especially when you got to pay an artist like Charlie. So for me, it was like, okay, well, we'll let the window business go, and that'll restore a little bit of balance. But so that's that. But yeah, with the YouTube videos, it's important. But for me, what I found to be the best is I just do it at the same time every single day. I have not been very good at this past probably 6 months.
You're still cranking them out pretty much every day.
They're probably, it's like 4 days a week, I think. So which I'm gonna build up again. We'll get back to doing 6 days a week, I think. And but it's enough for people to be in touch with people. I don't know how people do like 3 videos a day. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if your boy Zach was on speed or something back when he was in New York, because man, he would crank out like 5 in a day. I can't even think of one to talk about.
Yeah, well, that's the other aspect of it too, is I find myself, when I'm, especially at the beginning, I was so excited about just being able to share my point of view, and then people would listen to it. Like there's something with that concept that was just really exciting. So I always had video ideas, and I thought I'm never going to run out. And I remember people would ask me, like my family and friends would ask me, oh, that's cool, but are you going to run out of ideas? And I'm like, no, never. Now it's like I end up repeating, you know what I mean? Or like events will happen in comics, and it's like I've already talked about this topic, not in, and it's, I don't know. So it does get a little bit more difficult now, I think. So I've been trying to vary it up, add a little bit more variety to the kinds of content that I'm making, kinds of videos. I think that's helpful. But
yeah, I like the I like the skits.
Thanks. They're
The first
fun.
one, I was like, what's going on with Clint? And then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, I figured I could get a couple different responses. One would be just cringe, and that's what people would say, but I just had a creative itch and needed to scratch it. So it was fun. I'm going to do more as well, but that is not a sustainable uh, way to make a video every day, or even 4 days a week. It just takes too much time to script it. So I would love to say I'll do one a week, but it's going to end up probably being more like twice a month. I think I'll do a video like that. So,
see, the thing is, Clint, back in the day, kids used to work on the farm, right? They used to have to help the family out. Now you've got 3 kids, right?
Yes, 3 kids. Yeah.
So as I see it, that means you got 3 people to hold the cameras. You've got 3 people to do editing.
I know.
You got to help the family business here.
These are important skills the kids need to learn.
Exactly.
Could you only imagine? So, yeah, my daughter, who's 7, she loves drawing. Like I think she's going to be a very good artist because she's constantly drawing.
Very cool.
Yeah, which is great. But then I'm like immediately like, I could get her, if I could get her up to speed, I could put her to work. That would work.
You could really pump out another book a year, and you really don't have to pay her. Like, well, honey, we're going to help you with college.
Candy bars go a long way for kids that age. So yeah, we'll see. No, seriously though, when we get books to ship out, when we're campaign fulfillment time, they're helping, and it's with things like putting stickers, putting labels on stickers, things like that, stuffing the cellophane bags, with bookmarks and whatnot, and that stuff, it actually really helps out because it takes a lot of time to do all those little things. So
do you ever have to resort to Santa's watching, honey? Or...
No, they're pretty good. I actually, for the campaign, I said, if you guys help, I will pay you. And I don't remember how much I paid them, but it was more like for the whole project, like you'll get $10, knowing that they have very short attention spans and ability to stick to it. So it was like, if you help us this week, just like a little bit every day, then I'll pay you $10 at the end of the week. Well, so
$10 is pretty good when you're 7.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can do a lot with $10.
So speaking of videos, I watched your video today, which is very interesting because I was talking to some other creators about a very, very similar topic. And so your topic today was stand on your own. You got to build your own audience.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was kind of an update video as well, but I figured I had to kind of, I knew that it was going to come up because, I'm going to be in promotion mode here pretty soon with the campaign. And my goal is to like see how much I can do on my own, and it's not that I won't be doing some cross promotion, but I just feel like what had been the norm is only cross promotion. Like that's how you're going to promote it, is by just going from stream to stream, promoting to essentially the same audience of people, which is still great and it's useful, but I think I'm at the point now where I need to be lifting a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Sure. So, not to maybe get you in trouble, but do you think just promoting to a Comicsgate audience, is that enough for viable long-term commercial success? Like, let's say commercial success in the sense that comics is now your day job.
Yeah, well, on one hand, yes, on one hand, in that I know that there are people that do it, right? On the other hand, I think there's someone like me, I already know I can't quit my full-time job to do comics full-time. At least not yet, not with the capacity that I have. So, to me, I need to continue to reach out. So you're not only promoting, let's say you're promoting to Comicsgate. that is one cross section of fans. But within Comicsgate, you're going to have a certain number of people who are just not into your stuff, you
Sure.
know, and so it's tough because you want to find more people that are into your stuff. Like the people that liked Fatal are not all. Obviously, there were more people than backed Downcast.
Sure.
But I still think that there are a lot more people out there that would enjoy Fatal. There are a lot more people that would enjoy Downcast, and so part of that is just finding people however you can. And YouTube's fantastic. I'm going to keep doing YouTube, but I think it's a good idea to branch out and just try some other avenues to get people. And it's likely, like, if I go to conventions, you're going to get people that don't know what Comicsgate is. And
oh yeah,
and I don't think they need to know. Like, it doesn't, you know, unless you're involved in like the internet portion, you know, of comics. I don't know that that really matters. Like, I don't want to give them another thing. Like, first, let me sell you on my perspective on politics and entertainment. Then we'll get to my books, you know.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know. It's just going to be a mix of things. So I don't know. And I expect that there are going to be people that are upset. I already, you know, in the comments, not everyone agreed with me, my perspective, but I think when people see how I go about it, it's not a major departure or anything. It's just,
no,
you know.
Well, you know, the thing I kind of thought was the most interesting about it, you know, and especially that you mentioned you don't want to keep bugging Ethan to get on his show all the time. You know, you felt a little uncomfortable, like,
yeah,
you know, things like that. But it's funny because back in, well, let's see, when Cyberfrog launched, 2018, you know, that's exactly what Ethan was saying was go, you know, build your own audience. And I think, in my opinion, which I'm sure will be taken in the wrong context, people took the wrong lesson from Ethan Van Sciver. You know, people saw him and he was on a big show and he got on some big shows. And so a lot of people just said, you know, I got to get on a big show and then I'm going to be a success. But, you know, the way I saw it, that's not really what happened. Ethan started out, he had like 9,000 subs. He was getting heavy promotion from your boy Zach. And he slowly ramped it up to about 30,000. And when he really took off was when he started making the Star Wars videos.
Yep.
And I was talking about this with some other creators. And to me, I think, you know, that's kind of the lesson. Comicsgate is awesome. Comicsgate is by far the best comic book group on the internet. There are people who love comics. There are people who will open their wallets and they will support people, even if they can't financially. You know, they'll give you moral support. But yeah. I think, you know, there are a ton of people who fell out of the comic book industry. Sometimes it's because they age out of it. You know, those of us who are older, you age out back in the 80s or the 90s or early 2000s. And then you have other people who got just fed up with what was going on in the comic book industry. But those people are still there and they would probably buy books. So what did they do? They didn't just like go live in the woods like monks. They're in other fandoms now, you know?
Yeah.
So like with Star Wars, geeks who love Star Wars would probably buy comics. Maybe not every comic, but you know, something sci-fi like a Downcast, that would be an area, or you know, Star Trek or whatever. So to me, that's kind of the lesson is, you know, we should definitely don't pull a Marvel. You want to keep in touch with your base, with all the Comicsgate people, but you know, start reaching out to all these other groups and get involved with them and be like, hey, you know, why don't you take a look at this too?
Right. Yeah, you're not wrong. And I can think of for me personally, there have been points, like years, where I'll be less into comics, and it's not it's more like I want to be reading comics right now, but you know, it's expensive, and so it ends up being that I just get a few graphic novels for Christmas, you know, and that'll be the whole year. I think there's a lot of fans out there like that. Comicsgate is early adopters. They're energetic. They're great. Like they're the best fans. And you know, it's really important and core to my branding. It's important to my success. Like, I can't say enough about, you know, the opportunities that I have because Comicsgate versus, you know, ones I wouldn't have for sure. At the same time, then I think, okay, well, if now that I'm getting more books in a series done, that's when a lot of people start getting into comics. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I can think of, so many books like Ninja Turtles. I love Ninja Turtles. I don't buy single issues, but I will buy trades. You know, I'll go back, or the hardcover editions or whatever, depending on what it is. And I'll buy those after the fact once they're collected, because it's, you know, it's more affordable. So to me, like, I have to get to the point where I'm competing on price with every major publisher. So price and page count. So that's the place that I want to get to, is printing basically like volume 1, volume 2 Downcast combined. So you got 120 pages. That's the full story arc. Downcast number 3, number 4, those are combined, and that'll be, you know, and obviously this is a long-term sort of plan, but I think that's how you get probably your average comic book reader, I'm guessing, is more casual about their comic book experience. And so they want something at a price that they're used to, essentially.
Yeah, I think, well, certainly price, and it, you know, the whole indie route I think is tough for the price and also for the speed, because, you know, except for like Tim Lim, who's, my God, that guy's just cranking them out every couple of months.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it either, but
I
you know,
know.
except for people like that, I think it does make it kind of tough when you've only got like one 48-page book to get people to buy. But if they see like, oh, well, there's 3 Downcasts. Okay, I like this, so I want to read all 3.
Right.
You know, and plus we are in sort of a binge age where people like everything at once.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it makes sense to me, and it's, you know, it's you're slowly growing and everything, but that's sort of the way that I look at finding, I don't want to say different audiences. I think that's the wrong way to look at it, but a bigger audience, you know. And
yeah, I don't think it's necessarily finding a different audience, but it's finding people who would fit into your audience in different places. So they're not in your audience now, but they're like, oh, I would like that too. But they just don't know it exists.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is getting it out in front of people. And I'm pretty confident that there are a lot of readers out there that they're not on Twitter. You know, they're not watching. They might be watching. I don't know. I'm interested in Magic the Gathering. That's another nerdy hobby that I'm into. But it's like, I'll go through stints where I'm pretty interested in buying Magic cards for a while, and, you know, playing competitively and that. And then you know, then I look back at comics again and I see, oh, sweet, I want this book. I want this book. You know, I want to start catching up on some things. I missed this, you know. It's been a while. I feel like I'm so embedded in comics now that I don't miss much. But yeah, I think that there's just a lot of people out there that are like that, a little bit more casual. And if I can introduce them to my books, I think that's the right step to be doing, you know, the right next move. I figured I probably have anywhere from 300 to 500 hardcore fans that are going to back what I do, and they're going to be there in the first week, you know, that I launch it.
Right.
And that's amazing. And I'm going to try to cater to that audience as much as I can. And then beyond that, though, it's my responsibility to be always just seeking new people to spread the word, essentially. So I'm still learning on that part, but that I feels like that's the next right step.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's always got to be, you know, upward and outward.
Yeah.
So then, as a guy who's, well, clearly, you know, making the rounds on shows is important. So as someone who goes on shows, what do you kind of look for in a show?
So there's a few things, and you'd want to decide what your goals are on going on streams. I think it would disappoint a lot of people if you found out the truth that a lot of guys that go on Ethan's stream, for example, they're not selling books. And I don't know why they get ignored, you know, whatever. They've been on his shows even several times sometimes, and they don't have campaigns that are doing 6 figures or even, you know, high 5 figures.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just think that you have to sort of curb your expectations when it comes to going on shows. So I don't know. I think from my own information that I've gathered from going on a lot of streams is the goal there is to try and let people get to know you. And I think that is a worthy goal. So if you sell no comics on that stream and people get to know you a little bit, that's a really positive thing. And you could do that on a lot of different shows. Some streams will have very few people watching. And that's, again, it's a good, like, you can actually, it's a little less intimidating. You can have really intimate conversation on those. Bigger streams, again, it's just more people having an opportunity to get to know you. So sometimes you have to expect you're not going to sell a single book on that stream. And sometimes you'll be really happy because you have 6 people that backed it. But ultimately, like, if you see what I'm getting to, is that it's rare for you to go on a stream that you're going to get 1,000 backers.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, the expectations be a lot lower, but that kind of emphasizes why streaming shouldn't be the only thing that you're doing. I think in your promotion, like, you branching out, unless it's your own stream, clearly, like, if that's your format as a stream, I do regular videos, but you've got to find other ways to sort of do the promotion and not just rely on stream hopping.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, I do think it is a really fantastic tool that you can pretty much put out the call, like, hey, I've got a book that's coming out, and, you know, there's a ton of people, especially in the Comicsgate community, who'll be like, oh yeah, come on my show.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fantastic. But I think you're right in the sense that it can't just be this, you know. Plus there's also the problem of how many streams can people possibly watch in a week.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too, is sometimes you go on streams. I went on, I'm trying to remember whose stream it was. I went on a stream last time when I was promoting FATL, and it was 6.5 hours long.
And sure it wasn't Ethan's?
It wasn't Ethan's stream. I think it was that Star Wars girl.
Okay.
That's, I think, who it was. But it was so long, and it started like late in the evening too. So it was like just up super late. I had to work the next day. I was super grateful to be on the show, and I asked, she was one of the people I was like, can I please get on the show? I tried to really be very proactive about getting on bigger channels. And you know, I realized that sometimes I'm not, like, in that case, like, I wasn't bringing a lot to her show because it's just not my personality, you know what I mean? And the more people I get in front of, I'm just not very good at that. So, and I think that's okay. You know, I've gotten this far with what I've got. So I don't know. I just think you have to sort of evaluate how much time are you going to spend streaming versus how much you're going to make from streaming. And I think most people, you'll be disappointed on how much you make from stream hopping. The most successful people are ones that are consistently on like, if it's a live stream, if you're on a live stream all the time, if you're a regular, you know, someone like Cecil or John Malin, they see a lot because people get to know them really well.
Sure. Or even your buddy Vaughn Claus. I mean, that guy's amazing. You know, he used to have his own channel, and I was kind of looking for it the other day, and I'm like, man, I can't find this guy anymore. Does he even have it? I think he's just on other people's all the time, and he's great. Mostly,
yeah. Part of his thing is he's just so charming. You know, I didn't know him, but I had him on my stream once because it was him and Shinobi Sasquatch. I remember when they launched, and their books, they just both look good. So I asked them if they wanted to come on, and I had them on at different times, I think, but Vaughn was just so charismatic, and I felt like he made my show more interesting. So that's why I was like, yeah, you know, when I stream, I'm going to invite Vaughn, because he's just, you know, it makes it work better. He has a good I was going to say chemistry, but I think it doesn't involve me. You know what I mean? He just is good at it.
Yeah.
So, and that's worked for him. That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm definitely not saying that this is the route that everybody should go either. I'm just saying for me, you're just weighing like how much time do you spend streaming versus how much you're making off stream hopping and what else can you sort of add to it. Yeah, Vaughn and Eric stream together. Yeah, and I love those guys.
That's a fun show.
Yeah, they're great. Which is why when I stream with those guys, though it's been a really long time. I've just been doing regular videos.
Speaking of that, as a guy who has hosted a bunch of streams, what quality, or let's say how should you be a good guest on somebody else's stream?
Yeah, so a big thing is if you're promoting something, you have to be succinct.
Yes.
So when you go off and you want to look through your whole campaign tier by tier, that is not a good way to sell comics. It's far more effective if you have figured out a way to pitch your book in like 20 seconds, and then you do that 20-second pitch several times. So you want to like weave it throughout your experience, you know, as opposed to like get on the show and you're all business. You're there to promote the book and you want to spend even 5 minutes is an eternity, but sometimes it'll go much longer. And some of that just comes with practice, but yeah, you're far better. You're much more effective if you just sort of weave it throughout the conversation.
Yeah, I think you're right. And also being prepared, you know, thinking what you're going to say beforehand. I had a guy on, I feel like a jerk. I forget his real name, but Tail End Studios, who's doing Cobalt. That's it. His campaign is Cobalt, which looks fantastic, by the way. You know, before the stream, he's like, hey, I've got this, folder of images I want to show, and can I share the screen and this and that? And, you know, for me, it was like, great, because I didn't really know the guy. And I think a lot of people can really help themselves out. So you've been on a couple times. I know you a little bit. It's easier for me to think of, you know, what to talk about and sort of what to bring out in your qualities. But if you're new and you're just starting to get on shows, like you got to have stuff down and, you know, figure out how you want to connect with your audience.
Yeah. And some of it too, that's a really good point, but it's being prepared for their format too. And I'm solely guilty of this, but I have gone on streams that I didn't realize what the format was. And, you know, I might not have been best suited. I think of like, I went on Wanger's stream and he does a great job. I don't know if he streams much anymore, but he used to be really streaming a lot on his channel. And I went on and it was a lot of people and everyone was jumping in with jokes. And I just thought, man, I can't keep up with, you know, the off the fly jokes and like fitting in. That was difficult. So, and then at the same note, I'll have people that come on my stream and I have tried really, really hard to make it like family friendly. And like I'll have people on, I try to have the conversation ahead of time, and then it's like immediately bringing up like R-rated subjects or you know, and it's like like that, I just don't want to. It's not the kind of channel I want to make, you know, but I don't want to be like nannying people at the same time, you know. That's not fun. I don't want to be doing that. So I don't know, knowing the format ahead of time and being willing to play along, you know, whatever it is, I think that's a good way to go. Oh, Wanger got banned from YouTube.
Oh, did he? Oh, no.
I did not know that. Wow.
People are going down left and right.
See, this is another reason too. Relying on YouTube, YouTube's fantastic, but it wouldn't take much, and then you can't be on YouTube, you know?
Yes.
That's terrifying. So I don't know. I think like that's why mailing lists are so great. And you just want to spread out. Just don't put all your eggs in one basket.
So speaking of that, you know, I know previously, I think last time you're on, we talked about, and you mentioned in your video, having your own store on the, I guess it would be the Sweetcast site. So, but for at least for Downcast 3, you're still planning on hitting Indiegogo?
Yeah, I explored the idea a little bit of doing technically I could do a crowdfunder on my own website. The
Mhm.
technology exists. It's something I could do.
Sure.
The question was, is it a good idea to do it or not? And I think the answer is no,
Oh,
right
okay.
now anyway.
Interesting.
We'll see though. So I actually want to do an experiment. I don't know when this is going to happen, but I think it's okay to say it, I guess. So I like Indiegogo has been huge. It's
Mhm.
integral to my success. I'm going to keep doing it. But I think when I do start doing reprints, I might do a super low effort Kickstarter campaign. I know that's blasphemous.
Ooh.
But what I mean by that is put it up there and just say, hey, well, here's, combined 1 and 2. And I'm not sending people there at all. I just have it there to see if I can get readers from Kickstarter to back it. And then if they back it, they're on my mailing list now,
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so I don't know. That could be a terrible idea, but this is what the question comes into. Is it you sending people to that site
Mhm.
and they're backing it? Or how much is that site bringing strangers to your product? And I don't really know the answer to that question.
Yeah,
I
that's a good
think,
question.
yeah, I still think most of them I send there, but
Mhm.
I think if I tried the Kickstarter experiment, that would be an interesting way to tell, because I wouldn't send anyone over there. They're for books that everyone had, like you've had the opportunity to get on Indiegogo anyway. So, but just see if in the community there, if I pick up new readers. I don't know, but I think it would be a worthy experiment sometime down the road.
Sure. Well, especially if it's, you're not putting out money to make new stuff. You're
Yeah.
just reprinting however much you sell on there.
Yep.
Huh, that's interesting. I had Dougernst on a couple of months ago now, I think, and his Black Tide, is
Oh
doing
yeah.
fantastic. And he just went directly on Iconic Comics website, and I was talking to him, and he's like, yeah, it makes more sense for me to just sell privately, not to go on the crowdfunding sites anymore.
Yeah. He's the one that really got me thinking about it. I had thought about it a little bit, but
Mhm.
his campaign, I was like, wow, or campaign, his book launch, I don't know what you
Yeah.
call it, the release of his book. Yeah, it just really had me thinking, man, maybe we've been giving extra money to Indiegogo for no reason. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so
I
I don't
can
know.
definitely see new creators doing it on there because it's almost like you have to. And, when you're putting out your own money to begin with and you don't have a good way to judge sales, like it seems like that's the most efficient way to do it. But, I can definitely see some of the people who have already been there a few years and who have a pretty steady audience. I could see them doing their own shops.
Yeah. Yeah. I think something I want to try sometime, again, this would be more in that same experiment, is go in the opposite direction, and maybe I do a crowdfunder on my own website, but it's just for a t-shirt or something,
Mhm.
or like just for the hardcover collection,
Yeah.
something that's like after the fact, but it's an exclusive for my website. It would be hard to for sure get a 1-for-1 comparison. I think Doug did it the most accurate way, I'm sure. But yeah, I'd be really curious to know. I could probably just ask him like
Mhm.
what his sales are on it and like how it compares. I'd be really curious now that it's been over a month, I think.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks, but he was doing pretty well. Plus, speaking of finding other audiences, like I remember after the first one, he was giving all sorts of free stuff away, and I was like, "Hey, man, are you just throwing out money, or are you sure it's going to work?" And it worked unbelievably well for him.
Really?
Uh, there's Jack Posobiec, Prosobiec.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, you know, he sent Jack some stuff, and Jack promoted it on Twitter. Oh god, I can't remember which one. He sent it to an MMA fighter. Um, who who tweeted out his book and everything, and he's been hitting like all sorts of different Catholic streams. So well, for anyone who doesn't know, Doug's book is about like Catholic priest who fights demons, so it makes sense in that regard.
Yeah.
So and I think in that way, like finding that audience who's not necessarily comics focused, but they like the content, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I think there could be some of that. And like, so I am scheduled to speak at a library
Nice.
here, and it'll be cool because they said, well, they were gonna like pay me for attending, and I was like, I feel weird about that, but can I sell my books and do a signing there? And they're like, of course. And the cool thing about that is like you going to talk to people that came there. Maybe they're there because they want to learn about writing or something, presumably they're going to have a bunch of different authors, and I'm like the comics guy that's going to be there.
Very cool.
So it could be interesting. And I don't know. I think it comes down to, again, same principle. If you're on a live stream, people get to know you.
Yes.
If you are speaking to a different group of people, they still get to know you. It's just finding where to find them, and they have to have, I guess, some kind of they have to be like interested enough in reading comics that they would give it a try, I suppose.
I think so. To me, that's another hidden demographic that no one seems to have figured out how to quite tap into yet, is like the family demographic. Because I bet you have a lot of people, especially fathers, who they loved comics when they were kids, and they would be interested in buying it for their kids. It's kind of like, you're an adult and you kind of can't play with Legos anymore, but then when you have kids, you're all excited because you get to buy them Legos, but really you want to play with them.
Yeah.
I bet there's a lot of those guys out there.
Well, we're looking the arcade machine behind me. This is such a good example. You can look online, like I did, for reviews of these arcade machines, and so many of them seem like most of the reviews were people saying, "I love arcade. I'm trying to get my kids to experience arcades because I just loved them," and so they'll buy arcades, and they're pricey, that's like a big Christmas present. But I think for comics too, and I've gotten family, I think like my niece, she's been reading like all the kid appropriate Alterna stuff. I'm always like hooking her up, sending her comics and stuff, and she loves them, and that just like it makes me so happy. My kids read comics as well. They're reading my stuff, of course, but
as they should.
Yeah, as they should. But it also is just like there needs to be enough stuff out there that's appropriate, and what I loved about Marvel at its best is anybody could read it. Like it worked for kids, but it still works for adults,
Yes.
So that to me is the sweet spot. Like that's where I want to be in my comics.
So speaking of things that work for both kids and adults, you announced, I think it was today even, that Downcast III is coming out next month.
Yeah, June 1st. It's really quickly coming.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so with Downcast III, a few things. The book's finished. So that's the first thing. That there's not going to be a big waiting time. So that's really exciting. Next, I would say when it comes to Downcast, I had the idea kicking around for probably 6 years. Downcast 1, I launched it 3 years ago, and which is so weird to think about that it's been 3 years since I launched it. But when I did it, I didn't know if I was going to be able to, like, how long, if it was going to be just the one book. So I had to chop out a lot of the concepts that I wanted to do. And so anyway, long story short, Downcast 3 is essentially me returning to, okay, I had this really epic concept, and I'm going to now introduce the epicness of it. So Downcast 1 and 2 are an origin story, essentially. And then Downcast 3 opens things up how they have always intended to be. So it's great. I'm introducing a new character called the Monstro, which is that diver guy you maybe have seen floating around Twitter. And he's a little bit of an anti-hero. He's a really fun character. We have got some new villains, and essentially, if you've read Downcast, like a lot of it is about Joanne pretending to be the goddess of the stratosphere. And so now in Downcast 3, essentially, you're going to actually find out that the gods exist. And so the goddess of the stratosphere doesn't show up here, but she's coming, and it's not going to look good when they meet each other, essentially. So yeah, we're building things up in a big way. That was a terrible pitch, by the way, and not concise. So I apologize, but this is my first like real promotion of it. So
it's all right. You got to get the kinks out.
That's right. Yeah, we'll work on
but
it.
It's interesting you say that, because when I think when I reviewed the first one or the second one, I kind of said it like it feels like there's more going on here than what there is, but there's like, you'll sort of mention something in an offhanded way, and then like it doesn't come back again. And it did feel like, okay, there's clearly, more to this world than what's being specifically pointed out.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of that came down to I just didn't know how long I was able to make the book. It was like I'll do 52 pages here, and then I got 52 more pages, especially for the second campaign. I was like, if people come back to back it, I need to wrap things up, because I don't know if they'll stick around. Traditionally in comics, people are dropping off from issue to issue. So in this case with Downcast 3, I was like, I'm going to do exactly what I want at the pacing that I want to do it. So I think it'll make a lot more sense. A lot of the things I'm happy though with Downcast 1 and 2 is that they were still in continuity essentially with what my plans are. Like all that stuff existed. It just, I couldn't explicitly go through it because there wasn't time with the pages to do it. So yeah, here essentially I'm doing that.
And so for anyone watching, if you want more, if you want to find out more about the world and the mythology of Downcast, definitely get the Indiegogo version of Downcast 2, because there's a supplementary part at the end that there we go. Supplementary part at the end where it really goes through the mythology of like, why is there a flying city, and what's up with this world.
Yeah, and that's all that's canon. I was a little unsure about the format of it because it's not a comic. I don't think I'm going to do one like that again. I'm just going to stick to comics. But yeah, it is like sort of deep lore, and it's something you're only getting from the crowdfunding campaign. Like that's not going through Alterna.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of it. So I'm sharing my screen here. This is not live, but I just figured, why don't I just show you the campaign a little bit? Nothing here is finalized. So don't get too hung up on the prices and everything. But the prices should be the same. But this was the reprint I was thinking about. That's not going to happen yet. So we'll see. I'm going to sell through all my stock completely of 1 and 2. And then we'll talk about a reprint, but I can't do that now. So, cool stuff. Nacho he's just been getting better and better.
Yeah.
It's been fun to like progress along with him, thinking about it. Like we've done 3 books together now, we've been working together for over 3 years. And I don't know, it's just kind of fun as a creative team that we're progressing, and I don't know, it's pretty fun. So
how does that work? Because I remember on the first book, I think I asked how it was working with the artist really for the first time, and you were like, well, he kind of does the art and I tell him what I want, and is it a little bit more back and forth now?
Now, well, as far as with Nacho, it's very different from how it works with Charlie. So keep that in mind. But with Nacho, we have got it down now. It's such a well-oiled machine. So I write this all in full script, and then I send it to him, and I specifically try to make it a pretty loose loose on details script, if that makes sense. So he can feel free to add things that he wants to add.
Okay.
And then I'm very specific on details, obviously, that are important to the story and that'll be important down the line. And so I try to really, if I put it in the panel descriptions, it's very important. And if it's not in the panel descriptions, or sometimes I'll even tell him, like, hey, it'd be cool if they crashed the wall into a restaurant, like, for example, up here on this page. And the way that he achieved this is different from how I had pictured it. And it's different in a good way. Like, it's a lot. I really love how he did this. It's cool.
Nice.
So I think we've got it down. It's definitely, we work in full script. I try to, I don't know. Some of it is, it's funny because English is not his first language. But we communicate through Discord pretty regularly. We're just like in communication back and forth, and it just seems to work out really well. So I really like working with Nacho, and I really appreciate that he did this so quickly too. Like, stayed on schedule. Like, this was really his priority. And so, yeah, this is part of the way that, like, I want to make Downcast a sustainable model. And so part of that is having an artist that can be regularly turning in pages and getting through chapters and everything. So, and it worked out really well here. So,
yeah. And it's definitely, nice as an observer to see, sort of how both of you have grown so far through the first and the second. Like, in the second one, I really felt that Nacho seemed a bit more confident in his work.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Like, the first one, he was a bit more conservative, if that's the right word for it. But the second one, he's like, all right, I'm going to go for it a bit more.
Yeah, and I wonder, I have to ask him about this, but for me on the second one, I felt the pressure of the eyes, like people reading it. The first one, it was pressure, and like, I don't even know if this book's going to get made,
Yeah.
So it was, I don't know, it was figuring out the characters and getting through some specifics. I think especially for Nacho, like how he was drawing Joanne and Jax, that was a big thing. And I think any of the criticism that came from the first book, what on Nacho's behalf, was it came down to how consistently Joanne was drawn, or Jax was drawn. In the second one, you don't have that at all. And I can tell you in the third one, you certainly don't have that at all. But I think, I don't know, he just really stepped up his game on the second one and to show off what he can do. The third one, like, there's some really cool pages. I mean, there's a reason why I put this one at the top here. This shark here, he colored this whole book himself. So before we had Damien coloring it, he colored everything.
Wow.
So, and he'll say he's painting it. And when he says that, I think he really means it, because you can see, like, with the sky here and everything, like, I don't know, he's, again, just sort of doing what he wants to do. I try not to be too controlling over the creative aspect of it, or like how it should look. I'm focused on the story, and I love to see him just taking it and doing what he wants with it creatively, because it just makes for a better book all around.
Well, definitely when the people working on it have personal investment in it.
Yeah. So it's good. I'm pretty happy about it. I think people will like the art. What you see is what you get. He has a style that I think is really unique. It's part of the reason I chose him in the first place. So,
yeah, he kind of reminds me of a Mike Mignola style artist, where it's like you look at it and be like, that's a Nacho book.
Yeah, there are things that are slightly like the way that he does smiles here. This is a good example. He'll do like this one line kind of thing. It's one stroke for a smile, and I see where he gets it from. His I'm gonna forget his name. His mentor is a comic book artist, Marcelo something, but he's worked on a few different things. Like, he actually was working, I think, most recently on Kick-Ass for Image.
Interesting.
yeah, and I can kind of see that those stylings. Maybe I'll look it up. So I feel like a dope when I don't know what I'm talking about. But you can kind of see where he gets it from for sure. I'm gonna look at the images here, and this is, I think all of this is it. So, for example, I'll just pull this over here. Like this art right here. With no, hold on. That's
yeah. Wait a minute.
he did. I know it says that's John Romita Jr. Let me see. Anyway, oh, I swear he did this. There we go. Marcelo Frusin. He did this. Here's a specific one. So you can kind of see like how he does textures, and some of the anatomy elements are very like I can see where that's is an influence for sure. So yeah, sorry, I don't know the series very well. So
That's all right. I think I saw the first movie. That was about it.
Yeah, yeah. I never read the comics, so yeah, I don't know. But yeah, there's another one he did, Marcelo Frusin. Anyway, so you can see that when you see, you know, yeah. Here's another one, Marcelo Frusin, like almost like the gaping eyes kind of thing. You'll see as well in his styling and the way that he does, like cross hatching or hatching. It looks very similar to how Nacho does his hatching. And so if you kind of go back, I don't know, I definitely can see the influence there. I think there's a pretty big influence.
Yeah, definitely.
So again, there's that smile. It's just like this straight line kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but it's very Nacho, you know?
So, in addition, you mentioned that the often talked about, seldom seen Clint Stoker's Dracula is still on the books.
Yeah. So I've been working on that. I've been working on the script. I'm writing it full script. I actually hired an editor because I wanted to try this one out with an editor from the beginning, whereas usually I'll pull in an editor a little bit later. But from here, I wanted an editor from the get-go because I'm sort of approaching Dracula like, well, I mean, he's an existing character. I don't own Dracula. And so I wanted to get somebody else's input and sort of work out what kind of Dracula story do I want to tell. What I want to do is fund the whole thing first, just like I did with Downcast 3. But a lot of that depends on how Downcast 3 does. So, you know, we'll find it's one step at a time right now. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. There's some, I think, interesting and cool things that I want to say and do with horror that you know, you haven't really seen so far. But I don't know, I like horror quite a bit. So I think I think people will enjoy it. But yeah, this is the route I want to go, is have the thing finished, then launch it, or near finished, then launch it. And it'll be a short turnaround time for everybody.
Wow. So are you going to have an alternative cover that's basically like a spoof of Gary Oldman with those like white man buns from the 90s movie?
Oh, I could. That could be great. So many good. I already had 2 artists reach out to me and say, "Hey, can I do a variant cover for you?" Because that's the fun thing about Dracula too, right? Again, it's an existing character. So, yeah, I think there could be some fun stuff. I know Preston Acevedo is one of those guys that really wants to do a cover for it.
Awesome.
So, yeah, which would be great, I think. But I'm going to do a modern Dracula, which might be a little different, but it's like, I don't know. I think people will enjoy it. I think they'll like it. But I did have a historical Dracula, like more of a Dracula origin story, and I think I'm going to do both. So either one will be the ash can. The historical one was the plan was for it to just be a one shot. So I might have that be the ash can and still do it in sort of that one shot format, or I might just combine them and make the book bigger. That's undecided right now, but I have an artist already set up for the ash can version. And then the main story, I have an artist lined up for it. We had to delay production of it because FATL, and then, so after this is finished, then I can focus a bit on Dracula, and I'll have the funding essentially. Hopefully, I'll have the funding to sort of get it started, get it rolling.
Very cool. You got to be careful with the modern Draculas, though. Did you, by any chance, see the BBC Dracula series from a couple years ago? It's on Netflix.
I haven't. I know I've heard of it, but yeah, I
Oh, it's
haven't. Is it
painful.
trash?
It's they decided, we've seen a lot of versions of Dracula. You know what we need now? Woke Dracula.
Oh, Wokula.
Exactly. And it would have been kind of cooler if Dracula was the woke one. But no, it's
It's
the
literally everyone else.
yeah, there's a woman in there. It actually starts in the Middle Ages. And there's a woman, I think she was bit by a vampire. She's becoming a vampire, and like she's tracking him down, and she's like taunting him, like, well, we are a bunch of women in this convent, and it's like, oh god.
So cringe.
And then Tessa Thompson from she was Valkyrie in
Oh
the
yeah.
third Thor. She's in it too, because eventually they go to modern day. It's just like, oh, this is so painful. It's funny. I watched the whole thing to do a review on my channel, and by the end, I was like, nah, I just don't have the energy after watching that.
Yeah, I hear you. Again, this is what's tough about Dracula. I had to this is why I hired an editor. Because everybody knows Dracula. They have like I already heard people, people are putting in the comment section that you got to do a really traditional Dracula with this specific kind of art that's really old, art comic style. And I'm like, that's not at all what I had planned on doing. So that makes me a little nervous, but that's why I think hopefully between the two Dracula books, the two stories, I'll get something for everyone. That's, I guess, the goal.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of good Dracula stuff you could do. I want to see Dracula Year One.
That's
Dracula, but he sucks at it.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that's essentially the one shot idea I had. It's not really year one. It's only like an origin, but the more I thought about it, I don't know, I got obsessed with the idea of it for a while because I just thought it was so good. I'd never heard of anybody that did it how I wanted to do it. So yeah, I was pretty excited about it. I still am. I can't wait to get it in production. I just had to halt everything. So
sure. So, and speaking of halting everything, FATL is back on track, right?
It's back on track. It's back on a new track, though.
Okay.
Essentially. So, yeah, I mean, Charlie's still. I always felt bad about how much to share about this stuff. You might know that his wife had cancer.
Yeah.
So she's going through surgery now. Like, with cancer, there's some like got to take care of some stuff afterward. You know what I mean? And
yeah, for sure.
And so she's kind of going through that phase. And so Charlie needs to watch his kids a bit more. You know what I mean? He needs to be a little bit more involved with the family. So that is slowing things down a bit. It was
never a better time to train the kids to work on the artwork.
Exactly. Yeah. Get those little hands drawn.
Exactly.
So, but Charlie is working on it, and he turns in pages. They look amazing. He took a shift and he was working on coloring some, and he turned in a colored page, and so that was cool to see him do that as well. So he's working on it, but I felt, I don't know, it was just really hard to anticipate everything that was going to happen. So it's been tough for that reason. In hindsight, I don't really think we would have known any differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still think we made the decisions with the best of our knowledge, but this is why I think to mitigate this happening again, it's just I have to get the book done ahead of time, providing I have funding to do it, and then that way it solves that problem.
Well, I mean, first of all, the book is not super late. I mean, you only launched it a little less than a year ago, I think.
Yeah, it was August, I think.
Yeah. So in my reckoning, what I've noticed from watching all these campaigns, many of which I just got the Red Rooster book in. So as long as it's like about a year, people don't really complain too much. And if there's a legitimate reason why, something is late, I think people are very understanding. If it was like Charlie decided to go to Vegas and, he blew all his money and
Take the money and run.
Yeah, it took him 3 months to get back because he had to hitchhike or something.
Right.
It would be less understanding.
I mean, yeah, another, and the concern is that people are like, well, are you gonna, I mean, we've had publishers ask about FATL, but
nice.
But we've said no because we're getting it to backers first.
Yes.
And I don't even know that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But right now it's just about the backers. So it's not gonna be anywhere first. It's just as soon as it gets done, we'll get it to the backers. That's the goal. People have been really understanding. People have asked questions, obviously, because the deadline that we put was February, I think. And that was it was pretty ambitious in the first place. And then second off, with all the delays, it's just a miscalculation. So the big thing is I want to just be open about it, communicate to people, and hopefully, so far people have been really understanding. So I appreciate that.
But the campaign is still open if anybody wants to buy the book. It does look awesome so far.
Yeah, it's still up. It looks great. There's more art I'd love to share, but we've both decided we've shown so many pages that we want to keep some surprises.
Sure.
But yeah, man, it's so good. Every time he turns in a page, it's literally breathtaking. Not even hyperbole there. I'll gasp. It's amazing.
Do you think that there's an optimal time that a campaign should be open? And I'm kind of wondering this because, with Cyberfrog, I was not on board with Cyberfrog until the third cover, and it wasn't, and I was like, not really so interested. But then, I'd see Ethan streams every week when he was doing at least a weekly draw stream. I was like, holy crap, this is actually going to be good. And same thing with I just got Monster MD in, and when I say it's the book that has everything I didn't want to see in a comic book, but he made it awesome.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that book taking a long time, I'm 90% sure I would have passed on it. It's only after I got to see page by page, and then I was like, oh, but I'm sure everyone who watches my videos know how much I complain about coloring in modern comics. But even the coloring, they use techniques I don't like, but it's done so well. It's dang, that's good.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah, I hear you, man. There are, what was it? Do you know Alejandro Mirabal?
Sure. Oh yeah, I can't
his
wait
book,
to see Long Harbor.
Long Harbor. He closed it a long time ago, but I didn't back it yet. So I was like, what? No, you have to give me a chance to get it, So that was a little that was one of those remorseful scenarios, because I thought it'd be open for longer. But from a sales standpoint, people back books. It'll definitely taper off. When you're in demand, you're getting not many backers. I get maybe FATL probably gets anywhere from 2 to 5 backers a week. Maybe I would say 1 to 5. So you'll go some weeks where you get 1 backer, but once the book is printed, it's a different matter. I'll tell you with Downcast II, for example, I left it open in demand, and it was I was still, I don't know how many backers, but I was making anywhere from $500 to $1,000 every 6 weeks, when they would send me the in-demand checks. And so that was why not have this open?
Sure.
I closed it down to move things to my own website, and just because I think that's a good long-term strategy to have a website. But I think if I would have left it open, I'd probably be selling books more than I am on my website. So I don't know. I think you got to leave it in demand probably for a long time. I think it's important. You get to a lot more people. I could even, I don't know, I'm curious, I'll look on the fly here real quick, but so Downcast, Rise and Fall. So when we closed the campaign, we had 668 backers, and then we ended up with 941 backers.
Mhm.
So that's like, almost 300 backers, close to 300 backers additional that we got just in the in-demand phase. And much of those were after the book was printed and the campaign was fulfilled. And it was just sort of like a slow trickle, like throughout the months of me sending out additional books. So I wouldn't have done any other different way. I think that was a good way to go. And then also you get the pride of saying, well, this campaign made more than the first one, for so long it didn't like it didn't quite make more, but you leave it open long enough and it'll get there. Monster MD, right? He's right at 100K. I mean, he's so close to hitting 100K. And part of that is because he has the book now he can ship out. So, and that looks really good to have a 100K campaign.
Definitely. So as a creator, is that like the psychological measure that, I gotta hit this 100K, or is it more just sort of like a marketing thing?
I think there's a little bit of both to it. I don't actually think it's that important because it depends on how much you're spending to get to that 100K,
Yeah.
It makes you look really good for sure. People will, FATL's not at 100K yet, but we're almost at 95K. And yeah, we're certainly going to hit it. Once the book's printed, I guarantee we'll get a bunch of backers coming in. So, but having 100K makes you look really good. It's like clout. It's a significant amount of money, but again, I think like a $50,000 campaign, depending on how you built it, could be massively, that could be really big for you as a creator,
Yeah, for sure.
So that's like a Downcast 3. I don't expect to hit FATL numbers. So anybody, it's like you're set up for failure because if you don't hit 95K, then you're a failure. But the reality is they're just two very different books.
Yeah, that's, to me, that's just the haters. If Downcast 3 does better than Downcast 2, I consider that a win, no matter what the number is.
Yeah, that to me that would be huge. That's my goal. Like if I can beat it, obviously with in demand, using all the tools at my disposal, that would be huge. And the fact that I have it funded already as far as the production goes, that means more of that money would actually go to reinvesting. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, if we hit 40K with Downcast 3, I can produce Dracula. We can get it done, and we'll do it the same process that we did here.
Definitely. And in any business, you need a certain amount of stable income that you can count on.
Yeah.
And then you can take that and do more, I hate the term out of the box, but crazier, more out there projects, like just the whole idea of FATL. Like, how many people would have thought that? But it's apparently very popular.
Well, and it was a risk on a few different levels, but it's like you're pulling in an artist from advertising that's, working in comics is peanuts compared to advertising.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like there's a bit of a risk there. I don't know, but yeah, the art just looked so good. I don't know. I was pretty confident it would do well. It was just hard to know what well is. There's like a big spectrum. So I don't know. Like, definitely, I think you're right. You got to have. The more books I put out, the more like steady income I'm getting, just here and there. And it's not a lot, but it'll be a little bit here, a little bit there. And most of it right now I'm reinvesting. I paid taxes last month or whatever, a couple months ago. That was a nightmare. And so that takes a chunk out. But from there, it's like I'm just trying to keep the pipeline going in a sustainable, route. I don't think I could do like your boy Zach does, and he's putting out 5 or 6 campaigns a year. I don't know, and that's just a whole other stress level. I don't think I can handle.
You might get there. You never know. And once you get your first book that sells like 400,000, you'll have plenty of cash to do it.
Clint's about to take a beating. Oh, wow.
Beating? Why? What? Oh,
I don't know.
what
Let
do
me
you
know,
mean?
Leroy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I don't know. I kind of lost my track of thought, but we'll see. We'll
All
see
right.
how it does. I'm trying to have good expectations, but not over the top expectations.
Yeah. Oh, Eric is not having. Ah,
It's
I
not.
get
Oh, is he talking about my video today? Um. Yeah, I can talk to Eric. That's fine.
you.
Eric has, I think, a different perspective because I don't know, probably for a number of reasons. He has a different perspective than I do, and that's okay, right?
Sure. Hey, that's the one nice thing about indies. There's different business models for everybody. Some will work well for you that don't work well for other people. And we can all pick what we want to do.
Yeah. And again, it's experimenting, and you just learn, and if you need to change, you change. No big
Exactly.
deal. Yeah.
Well, Clint, it's getting late. I know my wife will be wondering where I am.
Yeah.
So we should probably wrap it up. Any final thoughts? Any secret projects you want to tease?
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Sorry, I'm a little out of the streaming rhythm, so I was a little long-winded tonight. So apologies for that. So far nothing's a secret. you know everything that's coming Downcast. The book that I wrote, let's see, what is it called again? I forgot. I wrote the Silver Streak story in David Furr's book.
Yes.
That one was it Amazing Thrilling Comics issue number 1. I know like my section is done with that as far as the art, lettering, everything. And so we'll see how that goes down. But yeah, it should be printing pretty soon. So I'm excited to get that book in my hands.
Very cool. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If you're in the chat, thanks for stopping by. If you liked Clint, and who doesn't, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. We'll have more people coming up soon.
Bye, everyone.